I thought I was going to be doing the Airfix Vampire jet aircraft, not just a Vampire, which would have been appropriate, but time and weather and technology have all been against me. So instead we get a Roman who doesn't look very well.
From out of this lovely little box came one of these. A skull, a plume, some things, and a torso. He is a skull zombie thing Roman. So he should be fun. He should be fun, he's going to be fun, I'm sure. And that's how most of his bits go together. I'm not going to get the cheek pieces out because they'll just get broken and lost. Now, day-to-day life has been all over the show lately, so it's been ages since I started this fella, and I can't remember if I showed you him with his undercoat on, so let's assume I didn't. I'll apologise. It was basically just manky green all over, then sprayed a bit of red, and then a little bit of kind of metallic with a splodge of... I sprayed the two, green and metallic, simultaneously because hopefully they'll mix. They usually do, they didn't this time. The green just come through. So I think that spray has had its day. That's alright because really it's supposed to be bronze. I'm just checking, bronze, not copper, yeah. As is his scale armour and his plaques. So that will all be manky in the end. So that will go down to grim greens and blacks, really. So it's going to be quite a mucky state of affairs. Just looking at him through the camera screen, he looks quite good. Maybe I shouldn't mess with him just a wee bit more than undercoat. But I'm going to. Probably not a lot more. That needs... ooh, covered in paint. That needs an awful lot of work doing. But I'm quite happy with the bronze. And then the leather straps need a bit of work. But I'm very pleased with his head. 3 shades of off-white, all intermingled. And I'm going to stop the bonework at that point because sometimes I just overdo these things. And we're not going to do that this time. Need a little bit of reddening up on the cape and a little bit of paling up on the scarf around his neck. Are you going to focus? There we go. So just a bit of highlighting to do. Other than that, I like the helmet, very patchy, with little highlights of polished metal, where little creatures have scurried over his head, little fairy creatures. There is a... it's interesting, you wouldn't imagine it was possible, but in Exeter Cathedral, in the bell tower at the base inside the cathedral, you can see the doorway through into the bell tower. And at the bottom of the bell tower is a beautiful, quite large, round hole, and it's polished to perfection around the edges, because the bell tower has the bells, and the bells have ropes, and little mice and rats love to nibble them. So for hundreds and hundreds of years, the cathedral cats have popped through the little hole at night and cleared up those problems. And every single time they go through, they just polish the wood a little more. So we'll just bring a little bit of kind of, in effect, what will look like gold, just to bring a bit of highlight to it where creatures have scuttled over him. Gradually the paintwork is sorting itself out. Faded fabric, grotty leather, and jaded metal. His neck is all tendon and rather decrepit skin, but his head is all bone, which to some degree that would happen because the flesh is quite thin on the head, but it does make him a contrasting character. And I imagine the brush on the brush on the plume of the plume is red and is fading rapidly. So that's where we are up to right now. I can get his head to balance. There we go. So a little bit of highlighting on the metalwork. There should be a pin that goes in there. I snapped it intentionally because I want it to be, I'll just cut a little bit off. I want it to sit a little bit lower because it looks a bit too proud. And there he is, almost there. That's alright. I don't know if I mentioned the eyes before, because obviously I've been leaving this to get good and dry, but there is a lot of work gone on in sculpting decrepit eye sockets, but I know I've got to leave them. If I start mucking about, it'll all get a bit too overpainted and so on. So just the idea of it all going a bit dark brown and leaving it at that. Very important for me to keep reminding myself I need to know when to stop and walk away, and I think that's certainly where we're at with the eye sockets. It's also where we're at with the fabric around his shoulders, the cape or cloak, but just a little bit of work to do on the neck scarf and the metalwork, I think, and possibly a little bit more highlighting on that plume. And just a little sidestep, we're on cheek pieces. That's how they come. You probably saw that earlier. The stalk is obviously sprue, but the square tab slots between the helmet and where your temple would be, and they seem to fit okay at this point. So they've had a bit of colour and weathering. They're going to get slotted on, and then the whole, skull and helmet can get its last bit of weathering, bringing it all together. So we're starting to construct, I think, at this point. Very exciting. I was hoping for better daylight, but never mind. He's done, in my opinion. Wallop. There he is. Sort of going from top to bottom. I've made the plume quite pale at the extreme ends, because I have a plume, I'll show you, which is real hair, and it was once dyed red and it's faded, so I've based this on that process. Then we're going down to the metalwork, which is a combination of sort of tarnish and a bit of grot getting in there, some of which is a bit red, which is okay, because again, looking at some of the ruinous metal around here, and some of the metal at those old tanks on the ranges, stuff just happens. So a little bit of irregularity I think is welcome. So I've left some of the oddities because the world is odd. And as I was saying, a little bit here and there the metal's kind of burnished, so there's a little bit of polish from odd little animals going by. Then there's his cape, which starts off as red, then I run a sort of bluey purple into the grooves to more than just highlight it, to give a sense of depth, or low light it to give a real sense of depth. Then over this side I don't know that it's going to show particularly well. I've actually put a kind of sandy colour similar to what's on the brush on there, just to suggest the dye is going completely and the fabric is doing its own thing. And again, I've kind of worked with very badly worn fabrics and stuff goes funny colours. Then the metalwork on him, on his body, same again, lots of greeny browns and here and there a little bit of polish, particularly on that lion, because it would be very outstanding. And the leather work mostly a dark brown, very dark brown. Again, if you leave leatherwork out, it kind of goes almost black, but with a little bit of highlighting here and there. So there he is, a rotting Roman. Oh, and the skull. Yeah, several shades of different shades of white, but with again, around here you dig up bones when you dig anywhere, and there tends to be a little bit of greening go on where sort of moss-esque small life forms grow. So he's greeny rather than white. We'll just have a quick look at the back. It's all the same again, but let's just have a look at the back, because he's got one. There he is. I'm alright with that. I was a bit worried about the heavy levels of highlighting there, but actually I'm okay with it. So he's done. Our dead Roman. There we go.
We tried pulling this awful wallpaper off elsewhere, and it really doesn't want to come off. So I apologise for the wallpaper, but here is, let's just, oh, here's a small collection of helmets tucked into the corner, and there's a nice Reaver's helmet, but that's for another day. And here's a late Roman helmet. Archers are often shown wearing these in Roman sculptures, but a few other characters too. Anyway, this is real horsehair. A friend's horse had to be put down, and she gave me the tail after treatment. I know it's weird, but you know, trying to get real, you know, get the real thing. Anyway, and it was dyed red, but with natural dyes. And after a couple of years, it's gone that colour, and it wasn't that colour originally, it was much darker. So this is what happens to your natural hair over time. Red's gone completely and the original colour's gone too. So our man isn't quite this far gone, but it gives you an idea.
I would imagine stumbling upon him would be an interesting event, wouldn't it? Just slightly sticking out of the ground, stiffened up, none too happy. It's an alright model, you know, everything went together. I mean, there's things like, I've allowed that cheek piece to be uneven, because 9 times out of 10 they're held together with leather onto the main part of the helmet, and this doesn't. It might just have the shape of a hinge on the top side, but certainly not on the bottom. So I've gone with the leather idea, so it's just slipping slightly. Again, I've got a couple of helmets that have leather. If I can dig them out, I'll show them. But yeah, I'm sure in the olden days there are a few features like this to be discovered, particularly in this region. So he seems very appropriate in so many ways. I mean, this is the kind of thing that the locals might end up revering in a perverse way, you know, and they might bring offerings to it and that kind of thing, because he represents alienness. So his presence could well be preserved.
This is a different helmet, just to give you an idea. A bit more Viking, really. Not a lot. Could be darker. Could be sort of post-Roman. And this one needs a right clean up, which is why I've got it out. And some of course there are echoes of the 9th Legion. I think it's the 9th, isn't it? Who were up here and then disappeared. It seems to be in some respects just a theory by a historian from quite some time ago, but certainly that legion do disappear after their last sign of them was up here. There's a few signs of them elsewhere, just a couple of signs, but they're in very small units, which suggest perhaps a few survived,
Starts to
but not many.
slide.
And then they vanish altogether.
So there's
Bit
that
of a
one.
weird circular argument, but he could
A
be one
nice
of them.
example, I'd say, and in need of a clean.